How you doing, everyone? Welcome back. I've been looking through my comments on some of my videos here, the ones that have pertained to crime, most specifically the one about declaring war on Chicago, and to a lesser extent, the one about trans shooters. And I've noticed that there have been some pretty racist comments in there. And, I've decided to leave those up because I think those need to be seen. I mean, that attitude needs to be known, right? We need to know that those people are still among us. And it's unlikely that they're going to be going away anytime soon. So, the racist comments have basically been, well, black people commit more crime than white people. Okay, that in and of itself is not a racist comment. In and of itself. Because it is a fact. However, if you're making the argument that being black makes someone more prone to being a criminal than being white, that is racist. So how do I explain the disparity between black and white crime rates? Very simple. When adjusted for socioeconomic status, that disparity goes away. That disparity is gone. So, it's just not accurate. Because you're looking at raw numbers of whites versus raw numbers of blacks, and, well, whites overall commit, well, more crimes because there's more of us, but per capita, fewer crimes. But then again, black Americans are twice as likely to live in poverty than white Americans. So how might that factor into the crime rate? Very simple. Impoverished white Americans commit crimes at roughly the same rate as impoverished black Americans. And the higher on the socioeconomic ladder you go, the less likely you are to commit crimes. And that's regardless of race. So what does that tell us? It tells us it's not a racial factor. It tells us that it is a socioeconomic issue. Now, why are black Americans more likely to live in poverty? Well, I know some people don't like the term systemic racism, but it does exist. It is real. Black communities are policed more heavily than white communities. And black Americans are more likely to be incarcerated for the same offenses than white Americans, or to receive longer sentences than white Americans. And, the systemic issues. Now, when we refer to, racial bias in policing, does that mean that the individual cop is racist? No, not necessarily. Possibly, but not necessarily. What it does mean is that the protocols have in place an implicit bias. So, I mean, it's not even explicit. It's not that, hey, we're going to go get these black people off the street. It's more like, all right, we're going to this neighborhood where, by the way, more black people happen to live than this neighborhood that is very similar in socioeconomic status, which is more likely to have a white population, has a higher white population. Why the disparity? There shouldn't be. When New York City had stop and frisk in the late 90s and early 2000s, which was deemed unconstitutional based on the Fourth Amendment, unreasonable searches and seizures, who was targeted? It wasn't people who looked like me. People who looked like me were not stopped and frisked. It was black Americans, primarily, who were stopped and frisked and shaken down. And, you know, some people would argue that that was effective, and some would argue that it was not. You know, just like people are going to argue that it will be effective to put the National Guard on the streets of Chicago. And yet, despite Dayton, Ohio having a higher crime rate and a significantly higher violent crime rate, we're targeting Chicago. Why is that? Why is that? I mean, Dayton, Ohio is not a safe city by any means. According to, I mean, if you're just going to go by where the cities rank on the list of crimes committed, you know, the per capita crimes committed. So, why are we targeting Chicago? Why are we not targeting Dayton? And why are we also not targeting cities like, I don't know, Columbus, Ohio, right? But we're going after Chicago, we're going after Washington, D.C. You know, is it that black people are more prone to commit crimes? By the way, this is Penelope, and she is in the way, so I'm going to move her. Are black people more likely to commit crimes? The only reason that answer is yes is because they are more likely to be impoverished. It's almost as if poverty is a driving factor. It's almost as if skin color doesn't determine whether somebody is going to be a criminal. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? So, is crime really such a black and white issue? I don't know. You tell me. I'll see you next time.